Chapter 23. Ryan. Her voice wasn't flat any longer. You were driving. You hit me. It had finally come, and I couldn't say anything. I reached out to help her back onto the chair. She shoved my hand away and hauled herself up. She sat there panting and shaking. Her eyes burned at me. I thought you'd come to help me, you greasy bastard. I thought you wanted... Her voice stuck and her mouth twisted. I do. I'm sorry. Shit, how feeble. Piss off. Go on, get out. She was staring at the floor now. I felt scared suddenly. What if she worked herself into a fit or something? I made myself speak again. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to hide it. Your mum and dad, they knew. Her head jerked up. The scar on her throat pulsed as she swallowed. Her eyes drilled holes in me. She looked awesome. Piss off, you lying shit. Her left arm jerked up and I thought she was going to thump me. Instead, she started hugging herself. That made me more scared. I'll get Brooke, I mumbled. I stepped out into the hall, and Tara's nurse was coming towards me. How's it go? She began. She saw my face and stopped. Tara's not too good, I managed to say. Brooke shot me a glance and hurried past. Out in the car park, I sat in the Subaru like I'd done those other times. It had finally happened, and it wasn't as bad as I'd expected. It was worse. Tara. I couldn't believe it. The lying shit, greasing his way in with Mum and Dad. Why hadn't they told me? I'd murder them. And I thought he was quiet. But Brooke bustled in. You all right? He was the driver, I heard my voice hiss and croak. He bloody put me here. Brooke nodded. I know. I glared at her. They'd all been lying to me. What's he coming here for? You'd better ask him, Brooke said. He wants to help you. He's not bloody coming again. I knew I was shaking. He's not. Brooke watched me. Up to you. Now we'd better finish this physio session. I didn't want to. I didn't want to do anything except yell at everybody. But Brooke made me sit up, and we carried on throwing the plastic ball backwards and forwards. She wasn't as good as him. Ryan. Thursday, I had my first defensive driving lesson. I've no idea how I concentrated. I'd hardly slept Wednesday night. It was like those first nights, nearly 3 months back. Things were breaking apart again. I didn't say anything to Mum when I got home from Watson House, but next morning she got so worried about how I looked that I told her. She said nothing at first, just hugged me. John nodded. Had to come out sometime, mate. The bad things are all over now, love, Mum told me. Give Tara time. She'll feel different in a while. But I knew she wouldn't want to see me again. I got my first exam result back, 86% for English. It didn't seem to matter much now. Good stuff, Ryan, the teacher said. It's been an excellent term for you. Yeah, well. The defensive driving course was run by a guy who lived near the high school. There were 2 other people, an old woman who'd let her licence lapse and a smart-ass guy about 19 who'd been up on a drink-drive charge. It was pretty interesting, really. All the theory stuff on how to anticipate what pedestrians and kids and other cars might do and what the worst distractions for drivers were. Chicks, the smart-ass guy said and smirked. I didn't say anything. Then the instructor talked about what could make cars unsafe, how some guy liked going round an 80-kilometre corner at 100 k's, and one day he did it with 2 of his mates in the car. But their weight had changed the car's balance. It rolled and they were both killed. Smart-ass shut up after that. When I got home, Mum was putting away her office skills stuff. Sally, Tara's mother rang, she said. The same fear jerked inside me. They've been talking to Tara, Mum went on. They wondered if you're free to go and arrange more physio with her tomorrow afternoon. Tara. Mum came after breakfast. I ripped into her straight away. I know who that Ryan guy really is. Why did you let him come? Why didn't you tell me? He came because he asked and asked to, love. We didn't want to tell you at first because we couldn't know how much of a shock it would be. She started talking about some family conference, but I wasn't listening. He drives his bloody car right into me, then he sucks up to everyone to make it all right? Mum shook her head. It's not like that. Ryan admitted it was his fault. He's never blamed anybody else. Somewhere in my mind, a blurry picture formed. Me, sprinting along a footpath and curving towards the crossing. I pushed it away. Why are you sticking up for him? We're not, Tara. We're just sticking up for anything that makes you better. I glared at the wall beside her. Mum was silent for a second, then... At the start we were so angry with Ryan too, love. But he's going to live with this forever, just like you. So are his mum and stepfather. The stepfather stopped me for a second. I don't want him here. The bloody liar. That's up to you, Mum said, just like Brooke. But he's not a liar, Tara. We asked him not to tell you. More silence. Mum took my hands and I let her hold them. Let's do some physio now, love. We can talk about it again later. Discovering that Ryan O'Carroll drove the car that injured her seemed to make the patient work even harder at her rehabilitation. This was unexpected but excellent. Her speech continued to improve. Her balance remained limited, especially when her left side had to take weight. Ryan. I drove across on Friday after school, feeling shit scared again. Ash said at school, 79% for geography, that's good, that Mel had told him about it and he'd be there. Vince? Huh? Who's Vince? When I walked into Tara's room, it felt like I was in court. She was in her wheelchair. Mel and Brittany sat there like Miss World and Miss Hitman. Ash leaned against the wall. There was no chair for me. I had to stand like someone in front of a firing squad. What are you doing here? Tara went straight away. Your mother said they wanted me to come. Brittany started in like I knew she would. She means, why did you start creeping round here in the first place? I felt shamed, but I felt angry too. We'd already had this out that time in Burger King. I've told you. Anyway, it's not you, but Brittany interrupted me. Tell us again, eh? You've probably got a different lie from last time. Now I was really wild. She and I spoke together. I'm not. Bet you. Then we both stopped as Tara went, shut it, Britt. Let's hear him try to wriggle out of it. Brittany's face was pink. Mel watched, lips parted slightly. I looked at Tara. I'm sorry. I've told everyone that. I'd do anything if it could make things different. It was my fault. Brittany snorted. We know it's your fault. You sound like a bloody parrot. It's not all his fault. There was a second before I realised it was Ash speaking. The three girls' heads turned to look at him. I was still watching Tara, and a different expression seemed to flick across her face. We were mucking around, Ash went on. Ryan was trying to stop us. Silence for a moment. At least I had one mate who'd stick up for me. That's no excuse, Brittany grunted. I started to lose it a bit. I'm not making a bloody excuse. You better not be. Her chin stuck forward. Her green eyes glittered. I felt a sudden weird respect for her. There was no bullshit with this chick. Mel was still silent. Tara spoke again. You think you can make up for it by crawling around here lying? Her voice wobbled. I could see she was gutted suddenly. I tried to keep my own voice calm. No. I came because I wanted to do anything. I told I was going to say your parents, but I saw her face change again. Brittany couldn't keep out of it. Well, she knows what you're like now, and leave it, Britt, Tara said again, and Brittany's face went pinker. Tara's face was flushed too. She had to stop because her breath was coming so hard. The throat scar stood out. Slow down, I wanted to tell her. Breathe from the stomach, like in TKD. The only reason you're allowed here is to help me keep on with the physio. It took a second for her meaning to sink in. Then Brittany's mouth flopped open. Ash looked pleased. Mel looked the same. perfect. I hadn't a clue what I looked like, but I realised this part was over.